15 stone giants, 15 centuries, one planet, yet their voices echo as though they are chapters in a single story. Think about this. More kings have been crowned and buried inside St. Peter's Basilica than have ever ruled in their palaces. Or this, Barcelona's Sagrada Familia has been under construction longer than the entire Aztec Empire existed from its founding to its fall. These churches aren't just buildings, they are time machines. They witnessed plagues and crusades, crowned emperors and buried poets, survived bombs and revolutions, and still stand as living monuments. Some were born from visions, others from ambition, and still others from sheer acts of defiance. In the next hour, we're not just sightseeing, we're stepping into history itself. Together we'll climb spires taller than pyramids, kneel on stairs said to be stained with Christ's blood, hear stories of fires, miracles, betrayals, and triumphs. So, ready to open the doors? Let's begin. St. Peter's Basilica, Vatican City, St. Peter's Basilica isn't just a church, it's the beating heart of Catholicism. Construction began in 1506 under Pope Julius II, who wanted a church so magnificent it would outshine anything in Rome. But the way he financed it, by selling indulgences, sparked Martin Luther's fury and launched the Protestant Reformation. In other words, this building literally changed the course of Christianity. The architects read like a Renaissance all-star cast: Bramante, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Bernini. Michelangelo at 71 took on the dome and made it his masterpiece, rising 448 feet above the marble floor, still the tallest masonry dome on Earth. Bernini later added the colossal bronze baldachin over the high altar, forged from metal stripped from the Pantheon's roof. But beyond architecture, St. Peter's is a theater of history. Here, popes were crowned, monarchs prayed before battle, and in 1978, the world saw white smoke twice in 2 months. First John Paul I, then John Paul II, just 33 days later. Beneath the basilica lies the necropolis where St. Peter himself, the apostle who denied Christ 3 times, rests in a humble grave. When you step inside today, you aren't just entering a church, you're walking into 500 years of power, politics, and prayer carved in marble and drenched in gold. 2 Notre Dame Cathedral, Paris, Paris without Notre Dame is unthinkable. Its twin towers, started in 1163, have watched crusades, coronations, revolutions, and wars. Bishop Maurice de Sully declared he wanted a church so large that all of Paris could gather inside. He succeeded. Its nave could hold 9,000 people, entire medieval neighborhoods under one roof. Its flying buttresses were not decoration but engineering genius. Without them, the weight of the stone roof would have crushed the walls. Instead, Notre Dame stood proud for centuries, but not without scars. During the French Revolution, the cathedral was desecrated, its treasures stolen, statues decapitated, and bells melted down into cannons. Later, Napoleon crowned himself emperor here in 1804, defiantly taking the crown from the Pope's hands. By the 19th century, the cathedral was decaying, slated for demolition. Then Victor Hugo wrote The Hunchback of Notre Dame, a love letter that reawakened France's passion for its Gothic jewel. Restoration followed, but disaster struck again in 2019. Flames devoured its spire, the world watching in horror as centuries of history seemed to crumble. Yet within 24 hours, donations exceeded €1 billion. When Notre Dame reopens, the same rose windows that colored the shields of crusaders will shine once more on TikTok tourists. From parchment to pixels, Notre Dame has always survived. 3. Sagrada Familia, Barcelona. Barcelona's skyline is crowned by a forest of spires that look like something out of a dream or a nightmare. This is Antoni Gaudi's masterpiece, the Sagrada Familia. Construction began in 1882. Gaudí took charge the following year and never let go. He lived like a monk, dedicating every waking hour to his vision. When he died in 1926 after being hit by a tram, he looked so shabby people thought he was a beggar. Only later did they realize they had just buried Spain's greatest architect in the crypt of the very church he never finished. Gaudí's vision was radical. He said, "There are no straight lines in nature, so Sagrada's columns rise like trees, branching overhead into a stone stone canopy. The stained glass changes color with the day, fiery oranges and yellows in the morning, deep blues and greens at dusk. Step inside, and it feels less like a church and more like walking through a living forest made of light. Civil War nearly destroyed it. In 1936, anarchists torched Gaudi's workshop, burning many original plans. The remaining work had to be pieced together from fragments and models. For decades, cranes crowded the skyline, earning it the nickname the Eternal Construction Site. And yet, in 2021, engineers crowned the Tower of the Virgin with a 12-pointed star that shines over Barcelona like a beacon. The final completion date is set for 2026, exactly 100 years after Gaudi's death. When finished, it will be the tallest church on earth, a century-long prayer carved in stone. 4. Cologne Cathedral, Germany. If Gothic architecture were a person, Cologne Cathedral would be its colossus. Built to house the relics of the three magi, construction began in 1248, but by 1560, enthusiasm and money dried up. The unfinished skeleton loomed over Cologne for nearly 300 years, cranes frozen in place, a medieval ruin in plain sight. Enter Napoleon. When he invaded in the 1790s, he used the incomplete nave to stable horses, turning sacred space into a barn. Yet Cologne never forgot its cathedral. In 1842, work resumed, astonishingly, using the original 13th century blueprints discovered in a drawer. Finally, in 1880, the spires were completed. At 515 feet, they surpassed the Great Pyramid of Giza, making Cologne Cathedral the tallest structure in the world at the time. But its greatest test came in World War II. Allied bombers reduced Cologne to rubble. Photographs from 1945 show a city flattened, but two Gothic towers still standing defiantly against the smoke. The cathedral absorbed 14 direct hits, yet refused to fall. Inside, the golden reliquary of the Magi sparkles with jewels, a cosmic reminder of the star that once guided pilgrims. For millions today, Cologne Cathedral is proof that faith can outlast fire, neglect, and even war itself. 5. Chartres Cathedral, France. Chartres is often called the Bible in stone. Its history is tied to fire and miracle. In 1194, a blaze consumed much of the earlier church. Yet, miraculously, the Sancta Camicia, a veil believed to have been worn by the Virgin Mary, was found untouched in the crypt. The people took it as a sign. The cathedral must be rebuilt, grander than ever. And rebuilt it was, at lightning speed. In just 25 years, the new cathedral rose, almost entirely intact from then to now. Today, 80% of its stained glass is original, making it one of the greatest surviving treasures of medieval art. The famous Chartres blue, made from lapis lazuli imported from Afghanistan, has never been replicated. Pilgrims have come here for centuries to walk the labyrinth carved into the nave floor, 856 feet of twists and turns symbolizing the journey to Jerusalem. Many still crawl it on their knees, tracing a path pilgrims walked since 1205. Step into Chartres on a sunny afternoon, and you are bathed in a kaleidoscope of light, windows showing the lives of saints, tradesmen, and even zodiac signs. It's not just a church, it's a medieval encyclopedia, a cathedral where stone speaks and glass sings. 6. Hagia Sophia, Istanbul. Few buildings in the world have lived so many lives as Hagia Sophia. Commissioned by Emperor Justinian in 532 AD after riots burned down the old church, it was completed in just 6 years, a near impossible feat. When Justinian stepped inside for the first time, he exclaimed, "Solomon, I have outdone thee." Its dome was revolutionary, 102 feet across, appearing to float weightlessly on a ring of windows. Contemporary writers said it seemed suspended from heaven by golden chains, but earthquakes twice brought it crashing down, forcing Justinian's engineers to rebuild it lighter and stronger. The result? A structure that has stood for nearly 1,500 years. Hagia Sophia's story is also one of conquest and transformation. In 1204, Crusaders stormed Constantinople, looting its treasures. Chroniclers whisper that a prostitute sang bawdy songs on the patriarch's throne. In 1453, when Mehmed II captured the city, Hagia Sophia became a mosque. Minarets rose rows, mosaics were plastered over, and Islamic calligraphy as tall as houses filled the walls. In 1935, Ataturk declared it a museum, making it a symbol of shared heritage. Then in 2020, it returned to being a mosque. Today, stand in its vast hall and you'll see Christ Pantocrator mosaics glowing beside Arabic verses from the Quran. Hagia Sophia is not just a building, it is a palimpsest, layer upon layer of civilizations written in stone, each refusing to erase the one before. 7. St. John Lateran, Rome. It often surprises people to learn that the Pope's true cathedral isn't St. Peter's, but St. John Lateran. Consecrated in 324 AD by Emperor Constantine, it is the oldest church in the West and the official Mother Church of Roman Catholicism. Every pope since has been enthroned here. The basilica has endured fire, earthquakes, invasions, and even a bombing in 1943. Yet it rises again each time. Inside, colossal statues of the 12 apostles line the nave, each brandishing the instrument of his martyrdom. Clubs, saws, swords, like superheroes of faith. But its most sacred treasure is the Scala Sancta, or Holy Stairs, said to have been carried from Jerusalem by Saint Helena, Constantine's mother. Tradition holds that these 28 marble steps were climbed by Christ on the day of his trial before Pontius Pilate, stained with drops of his blood. To this day, pilgrims ascend them only on their knees, whispering prayers at each step. St. John Lateran may not be as famous as St. Peter's, but spiritually, it outranks it. It is the Pope's true throne, the seat of authority for the entire Catholic Church. 8. St. Paul's Cathedral, London's skyline would be unthinkable without the dome of St. Paul's. The original medieval cathedral was destroyed in the Great Fire of 1666. Rising from the ashes, Sir Christopher Wren designed the new St. Paul's starting in 1675. King Charles II told him, "Make it awful and artificial," which, in 17th century English, meant awe-inspiring and skillfully made. Wren's solution was ingenious. 3 domes nested one inside the other, an outer lead shell, an inner plaster dome, and a brick cone in between for strength. Climb the 528 steps to the Whispering Gallery, and you'll discover its acoustic marvel. A whisper against the wall travels 112 feet, loud and clear. During World War II, St. Paul's became a symbol of resilience. On December 29, 1940, the Blitz set London ablaze. An unexploded bomb fell on the high altar, but firefighters managed to defuse it. Churchill declared, "St. Paul's must be saved at all costs," and it was. Photographs of the dome rising unscathed above smoke-filled ruins became a symbol of hope for an entire nation. Today, St. Paul's hosts royal weddings, state funerals, and national services. Its great dome is not just architecture, it is London's beating heart, watching over the city through fire, war, and triumph. 9. Santa Maria Maggiore, Rome. This basilica owes its origin to a miracle. In 358 AD, legend says the Virgin Mary appeared in a dream to a Roman couple, instructing them to build a church on the spot where snow would fall in August. The next morning, snow blanketed the Esquiline Hill. Pope Liberius traced the outline of the future basilica in the snow, and Santa Maria Maggiore was born. Every August 5th, white rose petals are still dropped from the ceiling to commemorate the miracle of the summer snowfall. Inside, the church dazzles with 5th century mosaics, the oldest surviving in Rome, depicting biblical scenes in shimmering gold and glass. Abraham hosting angels, Moses parting the Red Sea, Christ enthroned like a Roman emperor. Beneath the high altar rests a relic said to be the original wooden manger that once held the infant Jesus in Bethlehem. And in a quiet corner lies the tomb of Gian Lorenzo Bernini, the Baroque genius whose art defined Rome. Strangely, for such a flamboyant artist, his grave is almost unmarked, a simple stone on the floor. For over 1,600 years, Mass has been celebrated here daily without interruption. Through wars, plagues, and centuries, the prayers of Santa Maria Maggiore have never fallen silent. 10. Santa Maria in Trastevere, Rome. Santa Maria in Trastevere is one of Rome's most intimate treasures. According to legend, oil bubbled up from the ground here in 38 BC, an omen of the coming of Christ. When Christianity was legalized in 313 AD, it became one of the first official places where Mass could be celebrated publicly. Step inside, and you're wrapped in golden mosaics from the 12th century. Christ and Mary sit enthroned, surrounded by saints, the blue background as deep as the Mediterranean night. The apse mosaic glitters with light that seems alive, flickering like candle flames. But this church isn't just history, it's living tradition. The bells still ring the medieval sequence, and in the evenings, the piazza outside fills with locals. As the bells toll at sunset, conversations pause mid-sentence. For centuries, time here has been measured not in minutes, but in prayers. 11. San Clemente, Rome. San Clemente is less a church and more a time machine. On the surface, you see a beautiful 12th century basilica, but go down a staircase and you're suddenly in a 4th century church, abandoned after a Norman sack in 1084. Go deeper still, and you find yourself in a 2nd century Mithraic temple, where initiates once sacrificed bulls to a Persian god of light, and below even that, natural springs bubble, still flowing after 2,000 years. In San Clemente, each floor is a different civilization layered on the one before. Stand quietly and you can hear the drip of water and imagine centuries of voices echoing off the stones. It is Christianity literally built on top of pagan Rome, a reminder that faith does not erase history, but absorbs and transforms it. 12. Duomo di Milano, Italy. The Milan Cathedral is less a building and more a mountain of marble. Construction began in 1386 after a devastating plague, when Duke Gian Galeazzo Visconti promised a church so magnificent it will outshine all others. It took nearly 5 centuries to complete. Its statistics boggle the mind. 3,400 statues, 135 spires, and a golden Madonna towering 13 feet high at the summit, serving as Milan's spiritual protector. Napoleon, needing a proper stage for his coronation as King of Italy in 1805, ordered the facade hurriedly finished. Today, visitors climb to the roof and stroll among flying buttresses like stone lacework. On clear days, the Alps sparkle on the horizon. It's like walking across the back of a marble dragon, every spire tipped with a saint watching silently over the city. The Duomo is Milan's soul, centuries of labor, devotion, and artistry frozen in white marble. 13. Westminster Abbey, London. Since 1066, every English and British monarch, except 2, has been crowned at Westminster Abbey. It is both a church and a nation's memory palace. The coronation chair, carved in 1300, still bears graffiti scratched by mischievous schoolboys. Over 3,300 people are buried here. Geoffrey Chaucer, Isaac Newton, Charles Darwin, Stephen Hawking, all lie within these walls. Scientists rest beside poets, kings beside commoners. Each stone in the abbey whispers a different story of Britain. It's also the stage for royal weddings. Queen Elizabeth II in 1947, Prince William and Kate Middleton in 2011. And yet, despite its royal grandeur, evensong is still sung daily at 5 p.m., the voices of choir boys carrying 1,000 years of music into the present. Westminster Abbey is where Britain prays, mourns, and remembers. 14. St. Mark's Basilica, Venice. Venice is a city of water, and St. Mark's Basilica is its golden crown. Built in 828 to house the stolen relics of St. Mark the Evangelist, smuggled out of Alexandria under layers of pork fat to fool Muslim guards, it became the symbol of Venetian power. Step inside, and you're surrounded by 43,000 square feet of mosaics, biblical stories told in glass and gold. Noah's Ark, Jonah swallowed by the whale, Christ enthroned. The mosaics shimmer like liquid sunlight, reflected in the marble floor that ripples with water from Venice's floods. On the facade stand the famous bronze horses looted from Constantinople in 1204, stolen again by Napoleon and finally returned. Today, replicas guard the exterior while the originals rest inside, still glinting with imperial pride after 1,700 years. St. Mark's is Venice in stone, glittering fragile, defiant against time and tide. 15. Seville Cathedral, Spain. Seville Cathedral is the largest Gothic cathedral in the world, built on the foundations of a former mosque after the Reconquista. When construction began in 1401, the builders declared, "Let us build a church so vast that those who enter will think us mad." And vast it is. Its nave soars 138 feet high. Its treasury glitters with gold from Spain's colonies in the Americas. The Giralda Tower, once a minaret, is climbed by 35 wide ramps, not stairs, so horsemen could ride to the top. Inside lies Christopher Columbus, or at least part of him. In 2006, DNA tests confirmed that some of his remains are here, though other fragments lie in the Dominican Republic. Nearby rests the massive iron key to the city, handed over by the Moors in 1248. Every 50 years, caretakers still oil the lock and turn it, keeping alive a ritual 7 centuries old. Seville Cathedral is both a monument to faith and a testament to Spain's age of discovery, ambition, wealth, and devotion carved into stone. If these stories lit a spark, tap the like button. It tells the algorithm that history matters. Comment below, which church would you fly to tomorrow if you could? And if you want a deeper dive into one of them, say, the Labyrinth of Chartres or the mysteries under San Clemente, let me know. New journeys drop every week, so hit subscribe and join the adventure. 15 churches, 15 lifetimes, yet their stories are far from finished. These walls have absorbed whispered prayers in Latin, Greek, Arabic, Spanish, English, and still, they listen. These stones were lifted by medieval hands and are still touched by millions of pilgrims and tourists today. They remind us that history isn't dead, it breathes in domes, mosaics, and bells. The faith that raised these giants still lingers in their shadows. So next time you see a cathedral, don't just pass by, push open the doors, step inside. You might just enter a chapter still being written.